Hey, it's Pam. Thank you for coming back for another of our dog training tip. The March Madness, one training video a day in March, and I'm still managing it. I'm pretty impressed I've got this far, and thank you so much for coming with me. So today's tips is just going to be trust your dog. Now, quite a lot of times, if we ask our dogs to do something that he should be able to do and he doesn't do it, we get annoyed with them. We're thinking they're being bad, they're being naughty, why aren't they doing this thing? But sometimes you've got to look and think, why is your dog not doing this thing? Trust them. So if they aren't doing it, there could be several reasons. So imagine you've asked your dog to sit and you're saying to yourself, my dog knows how to sit, why is he disobeying me in this way? But we've got several things to think about. Your dog knows how to sit, but dogs are really specific. Does your dog know how to sit in the location, in the way you're asking them to? And quite often we ask our dog to sit when they're standing in front of us in the kitchen and we're holding a treat, or they're stood in front of us in the park and we're holding a bowl. We ask them to sit and they sit. It all makes sense. And then we'll move to a completely different location. We'll have the dog at our side. We won't have a treat or a bowl in our hand, and we'll ask them to sit. Now, dogs are really specific. So you're saying sit, and to you that means put your bum on the floor, but to the dog that means stand in front of you and get into this position. So the dog isn't being disobedient if you say sit when he's at your side and he starts to move around. He's just doing what he's used to. He thinks sit means get in front of you and sit down. So we have to teach him that actually now it means it can be in any position at all. And we do that by teaching in different locations, different positions from you. It could even be as simple as, the dog's 3 steps further in front of you than he usually is. So we just have to teach them by a little step out at a time and teach them that, yeah, it's okay. You don't have to run and be right in front of me when I say sit. You can sit down exactly where you are. Another thing, you've also got to check out if your dog's fit. If they always do this thing and suddenly they don't, they're a bit slower to sit. It could be they have a little injury. And dogs are fairly stoic. They won't necessarily limp or yelp or anything to tell you that they're injured. What you might find will happen is they'll be a little bit slower to get into certain positions. Maybe they'll sit a little bit squint, or they'll go into a lie down instead of a sit, or they won't even sit. And so it's maybe worth, if you see a real change from a behaviour that they were dead good at to now suddenly they're not doing it at all, just check. Just get them down the vet and check that they're okay. Check the eyesight's fine. They might not see your hand signal that you're telling them to move into this position. Check that their hearing's okay. They might not have actually heard you. And check that they've got no pain and stiffness. Also, check out for any kind of, say, a rash or skin irritation, maybe a little cut or something. Would you like to sit down on the muddy ground if you had a wee cut in your bum? Not really. And equally, check what you're asking them to sit down on. If you've just told your dog to sit and made them sit on a stinging nettle, I don't blame them if the next time they're not so keen to do it. Or if you ask them to sit in a big muddy puddle, some dogs will actually move to the side and sit somewhere a bit cleaner. And I actually don't mind that. Is it really so important that your dogs are mindless robots, or would you like them to actually think about what you're saying? So yes, there are times that you do need your dog to actually obey you instantly because you see some danger or something else. So perhaps it would make more sense to check before you ask your dog to do something that you're not asking them to do something unpleasant, so they don't get into the habit of disobeying what you're saying because your orders are a bit stupid, basically. So, before you just automatically tell your dog to sit, have a wee look on the ground. It's like, is that a revolting muddy puddle? Okay, I'm not going to ask him to sit. I'll call him to a different place. Come here, dog, and sit. So I hope this helps a wee bit for you to think why actually your dog might be disobeying you. There's 101 other reasons, but the one thing is dogs are fairly honest. They don't really lie to us. If he's not doing something you've asked, there's a reason for it. Be it they weren't properly trained or they weren't trained for that level of distraction. It's a bit unfair if you've only been teaching them to sit in the house to suddenly ask them to sit when there's a squirrel in front of them. They may be in pain or discomfort from the position, or there may be a really good reason for them not to want to do the position in that place. So just think of these things when you're asking your dog to do things. Remember, they're not robots. Thank you for joining, and I hope you come back tomorrow. Let's see what I come up with to talk about then. Alright, thank you.